Welcome, everybody. Most especially, Binduji, thank you for taking the time. And now you're going to lead us through this 15th class on the Taitareeya. Also, thank you, Prakash, for being here to support. That means a lot to all of us, I think. We really look forward to your class today, Binduji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Atmisha. Thank you, Prakash. And thank you all for coming to the 15th session of Taitareeya Upanishad. Let me start the mantras. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrabhyo Vamshi Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karnalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Taitareeya Upanishad Dvitiya Brahmanandavalli Shanti Mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahma Vidapnoti Param Tadeshabhyukta Satyam Dhyanam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman Sosnude Sarvan Kaman Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti Tasmad va ye tasmadatmana akasha sambhutaha akashad vayuhu vayoragnihi agneirapaha advyah prithvi prithivya oshadayaha oshadebhyonnam annat purushaha savayesha purushonnarasamayaha Tasyedameva shiraha ayam dakshinah pakshaha ayam uttarah pakshaha ayam atma idam puccham pratishta tadapyesha shloko bhavati. Om. So when we were discussing the last Friday, we found out that Tasmad va etasmad atmana was a statement from the Upanishad after having told Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Now, the relationship between how did the word Brahma get replaced with Atmana was the reason with which we ended the last Friday's class. But to just a quick recap, we said that the word Atma and Brahma are equated from a specific point of view, even though Brahma is the totality, the truth, Satyam, Jnanam is the consciousness, Anantam is infinitude. And that is the nature of Brahman, with all the three functioning simultaneously. And when Atmana, the word is used, Atma means the self. Now, the self which we all identify ourselves with, the self, is limited, individualized, and is neither the Satyam, is nor the consciousness, is nor infinite in nature. So why did the Upanishad shift from the word Brahma to Atma? So to drive the point, the two mantras from the Taitareeya Upanishad itself was quoted by Acharya Shankara. saying that Edam Anandamayam Atmanam Upasankramati Evam Tatrushtva Tadevana Pravishyat. These two mantras were quoted for saying that Tasyeva Jivaswarupena Sharira Pravesham Darshayati Ataha Veditum Swarupam Brahma. Here Acharya is saying that there is absolutely no difference between the two words in the essence of the intended meaning of the Upanishad. Even though the literal meaning of the words are independent and separate, the intended meaning of the Upanishad is to drive down the point that we have to understand our true nature, not what we know our true nature as the limited individual with the body, mind and intellect complex. So to drive in this point, the Upanishad is now replacing Brahma with Atma. So the opponent is now asking a question. This is from where today we start. Evam tarhi atmatvad jnana kartrutvam atma jnata iti prasiddham. Iti hi prasiddham. Evam tarhi, if that is the case, atmatvad jnana kartrutvam. The moment you say atma, self, there is jnana kartrutvam, means there is a knower. The knowership is there in the self. Because atma jnata, we all know the self as the knower. Iti hi prasiddham. This is indeed the most known thing to everyone. So akamayata, in the Taitareeya Upanishad itself it will come. Iti cha kaminaho jnana kartrutva prasiddhihi. This very mantra in the Taitareeya Upanishad is indicating that there is a doership. Jnana kartrutva prasiddhihi is well defined in the mantra itself, that there is a desire. He desired or he willed or he had an action of desire, knowing or aikshata, kamayata, all those words which are used is to indicate that there is a doership in the Atma or the individual, the self. Ataha jnana kartrutvat nyapti brahma iti ayuktam. Therefore, you said jnanam, nyapti, avabodha or bhavasadhanam is the definition which you gave earlier. But that is inappropriate, because ayuktam means inappropriate. Jnana kartrutvat nyapti iti, that is, if the doership is there, then the knowledge, the word knowledge is not fitting or not befitting the definition of Brahma. Because Brahma and Atma being the same, there has to be a doership in Brahma also, or if Atma also. Anityatva prasangacha. Anityatva means not eternal. That is, that which is limited. Why? Because we all have the doership, knowership, or our desireship. Whatever may be the activity of the self, it has a beginning in time and end in time. When we desire something, it has a beginning and it has an end. When we are knowing something, it has a beginning. When I come to know a flower, there is a beginning, there is an end to it. When I'm shifting from flower to a tree, like that, when the objects change, my knowing also, the doership also is changing from the knower of the flower to the knower of the tree. I am differentiated now that. Now, if this is the case, that is will become anitya, means because the knowledge, the knowership is not eternal in nature. Whereas you said anandam in the Brahma's definition, that which is this infinitude or eternal in all the matters. Yadi nama nyaptir jnanamiti bhavarupata brahmana. Now let us assume that yadi means suppose, in this case, nyaptir jnanamiti. Nepti is actually consciousness or awareness. Jnanam iti bhava rupata. Suppose if it is taken as the nature of Brahman. Bhava rupata means nature. Jnanam iti in the form of knowledge is of Brahman. Tadapi anityam prasajyeda. Even that will become not eternal, or that will become what you call ephemeral. Paratantrim cha. Now, what the word paratantrim is a very technical term in the Sanskrit grammar. Paratantrata means dependency on other one. Param means other. Tantra means dependency. Paratantrim means dependency on another. Why is the dependency on another? Dhatvartvanam karakapeshatvad. Now this is the technical part of it. Dhatu artham. Dhatu means verbal root. Artham means meaning. Now, karaka apekshatvad means, karaka means is that relation between the verb and the related activities. Every verb is indicative of a action, and no action is independent of either a doer or an instrument or an object, or there are things like that, from where it is being moved or where it is action is taking place, on to which action is taking place, or in which substratum the action is taking place. So there is a paratantrium, means dependency on any one of these things. And all these things are called karakam. There are 6 karakams, 6 of them, except for the 6th case, where is a relationship. Relationship doesn't have a karakam. Now it is, Rama is Dasharatha's son. There is no kriya in it, or there is no action or a verb in it. It is a relationship, except that. Now Rama is knowing, means Rama is doing, means there is this subject, that is the subject. Then Rama is doing tilling. Suppose we say that this thing, tilling, that activity of tilling needs what? It needs an instrument, it needs a place in which it is to be done, and there is a object with which it is being done, the tiller, etc. Like that, there are dependencies on all those things. This is why it's called Dhatvartanam Karakapekshatvat. So therefore there is a Karakapeksha for all those activities. Any action, verb for that matter, is in the coming under this category. Therefore, we have to now understand that the word jnanam also is a verbal root, jna, from where jnanam means the knowledge. The knowledge. Jnata means the knower. Then janati is knowing. Like that. So all these are dependency on the karakas. So therefore, Dhatvartaha, Jnanam cha Dhatvartaha. That is, therefore, there is a definite meaning for that the word Jnanam or Nepti, when all those things have got a definitive dependency on the Karakas, and therefore cannot be considered as a Bhava Rupata of Brahman. It is not as a Swarupa of Brahman. Ataha asya anityatvam paratantriyam cha. Paratantrata cha. Therefore, the word Brahman or Atman, whatever you have now equated, is taking on the Vedantin, Advaitin, saying that therefore your word Brahma is a Jnana Swarupa or Bhavarupa of Brahma, then there will be Anityatvam, means ephemerality and dependency on the Karakas. how am I supposed to know that this statement of the Upanishad is making any sense to me? It doesn't make any sense to me. Nor is your statement that, jnanam, nyapti, bhava, rupata, etc. all has not made any sense to me. So there will be definitely this ephemerality of that word because it has got a dependency on the karakas. So the Siddhanti or the Advaitin is saying that, Acharya is commenting on that. Na Swarupa Vyatirekena Karyatva Upacharat. Now this one sentence is called a Sutra Bhashya. In the form of a sutra or a what you call aphorism, in the form of an aphorism, the answer is being given. Now typically those who have studied under the tutelage of a guru in the traditional way of 12 years of Vyakarana, etc., for a person who is adept in the language, Sanskrit language, and the technicalities of the language and everything, this one statement is enough. Swarupa avyatirikena karyatva upacharat. Now that one sentence, Sutra Bhashya, cannot be understood to even in the today's context, even to those most of the people who have studied Sanskrit. Therefore, knowing very well that not many will be able to decipher this Sutra Bhashya, Acharya Shankara himself is giving a long sentence which I'll read first and then explain it word by word. Atmanaha Swarupam Jnapti न ततो व्यतिरिच्यते अतः नित्य एव तथापि बुद्धेः उपाधिलक्षणयाः चक्षुरादिद्वारै विषयाकारपरिमाणिन्या ये शब्दाद्याकार अवभासाः ते आत्मविज्ञानस्य विषयभूता उत्पद्यमाना एव आत्मविज्ञानेन व्याप्ता उत्पद्यन्ते तस्मात् आत्मा विज्ञान अभावस्याश्च ते विज्ञान शब्द वाच्याश्च धात्वर्थभूताः आत्मना एव धर्मा विक्रिया रूपा इति अविवेकिभिः परिकल्प्यन्ते. The explanation is clear to those who are able to understand Sanskrit. Now, what does it say? Atmanaha Swarupam Jnati. Acharya Shankara is definitely fixing again that Atmanaha, that means the nature of the self, Swarupam, nature of the self, Jnaptihi is awareness, consciousness or pure knowledge. Nat tataha vyadhirchichade. There is nothing separate from it. That is where the importance is that. From Jnapti, from that knowledge of Swarupa, of Atma or Brahman, na tadau vyatirichate. There is nothing separate from it. Now what happens is that we all have knowledge as an event or an activity that is happening with our intellect or the mind. But whatever is that happening in our intellect and the mind has got space, time and object as limitations. It will be either limited by space or either limited by time or limited by the object. We have no knowledge or we have no idea of a knowledge, awareness or consciousness which is infinite in nature, Satyam, which is doesn't go through change, which is in the Chaitanya Rupam or the consciousness nature of it, Jnapti Swabhava Rupa, Swarupa, and Anantata, where there is infinitude also in that. We have no knowledge of anything which we can call that it's an infinite knowledge. Ataha nitya eva. Therefore, if it becomes a swarupa, then there cannot be bifurcation or a separation. What happens is that knowledge, what we know about, is conditioned by the subject and object in it. The knowing aspect, which we call it as knowledge or experience. We call it as anubhava in Sanskrit. Experience is anubhava. Bha. That anubhuti or anubhava, both of the word means are the same. It has got the one who is knowing and something which is being known, whether it is an external object or an internal emotion, feeling and thought. There is nothing outside it. So what happens is that here the Upanishad is telling that the nature of our own nature, the individual's nature, where he also knows the mind, he knows his waking, dream and deep sleep as experiences. All those things are limited by the conditions of the mind. And all the objects and even the subject, when I am knowing something, I am bound by space, time and objective nature of me as an object. Then I call myself as a subject. And what I know, I call it as an object, and that is also bound by space, time and object nature. And that object of my knowledge is separate from the object which I am, which I call myself as a subject now. And what I know is called now knowing. Now this aspect of knowing is not knowledge of Nepti Swarupa. It is not the knowledge of the nature of pure knowledge, because it is conditioned by the instruments of knowing on the objects of knowing. Tathapi buddhehe upadi lakshanaya chakshuhu adi dwarehi vishayakara parinaminya. This is what now I am going to explain. Even though the Atma is Nitya, is immortal, not Anitya or ephemeral like the opponent was asking, saying Jnana Swarupa is not Anitya and Paratantrim. Here saying that Buddhehe upadi lakshanaya chakshuradi dwara. What happens is that the mind or buddhi here, the word Acharya used is buddhi or mind, antakarana basically. Upadi lakshanaya, it has got the nature of instrument. The mind itself is an instrument. And it is using other instruments like chakshuradi, means like the eyes, ears, touch, smells, taste, all the five sense organs like sabda, sparsha, rasa, rupa, gandha, that sound, vision, touch, smell, taste, all those things have got dependency on the orifices or the external contact points through which it contacts the object outside. Now what happens is that this mind, through the orifice, when in contact with the object outside, the mind and the eyes as well as the object outside are made of jada or pancha Panchabhutas, the five elemental basic elements, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. Like the five elements are there for the mind as well as for the object and the eyes, our body, the knower's body and the object outside. When this contact comes between the two, we get a feeling that an independent action or independent nature of knowing, which is neither present in the subject nor present in the object, is being generated, is what we are feeling, and we call it as knowing. This aspect of our knowing is what the opponent is now refuting, saying that it cannot be the nature of knowledge, because they are all changing based on the contact of the object and the subject. Vishayakara parimannina. It is here parinama is not like, the deformation or a change in the nature of the object, or the change of the object is not undergoing any change. The subject is also not undergoing any change. But then there is a change in the relationship between the subject and the object. The object until then, which was unknown to me, is now becoming known to me. Therefore, there is a classification difference from the object from the unknown to the known by the definition of knowledge. Because I call it as, now it is known to me. So, what is this is the Advaiti is calling is that Shabdadi Akara Avabhasa. Avabhasa means a appearance. In the Shabdadi Adya Akara. Now what happens is that the mind can conceive only in the form of a sound. Anything that comes to the mind has to have a name. So Shabdadi means Shabda and Rupa. Both are the nature in which it is being considered. Even for that expression, suppose if I say hot or cold, the word hot or cold are verbal words. Even though the experience is there in the mind that my body is feeling hot or I am feeling cold now, the mind is conceiving it as a sound in the mind, and that experience is now becomes a knowledge which is touching the skin in the form of a difference in temperature, either hot or cold. Same way sweet or salt or sour or whatever may be that. All those things are what is happening is that this contact between the orifice of contact between the world outside and the sound with which the mind is now experiencing it is converted into a avabhasa, means actually speaking it is a deformation or is a reflection in the form of sound, shabdadi akara. And this is called vritti in the Sanskrit term. Vritti means a vibration or a impulse in the mind. Actually speaking, the knowledge aspect is not happening in the mind, nor it is happening in the object, because both of them are jada vastu, means insentient objects. The physical body, which is encasing the mind and or the brain, where the source of stimuli is all coming, that becomes a dead body. The object is also a dead and inert object when it becomes inert. But the knowledge is taking place only when the life is there in the body. So we say that time we have having a knowledge, knowing happening here. This is something like suppose if I am touching two iron nails, they don't stick to each other. One is called a subject and the other one is called an object. They don't touch together, they don't have any reaction because both of them are inert and dead. But the moment I bring a magnetic piece, one nail becomes immediately attached to the magnet and becomes a magnet by extension and is now able to hold on to the third object, which is called the second pin, which is the object. So in the presence of the magnet, the first pin becomes magnetic and is able to transfer that into the second object. Same way, when the Atma is the knowledge Swarupa, Nyapti Swarupa, is in contact with the mind is now becomes reflected with the consciousness of the knowledge of the consciousness or the potency of the knowledge, consciousness. And that is the reason why the knowledge is happening in the mind. We feel that we are knowing in the mind. The mind, when it is not functioning, when we are present in the body itself, but when there is no contact with the world outside through the orifices, or when the mind is not in contact with the objects, either the object is having a what you call obstruction, or the mind is having an obstruction by which it is not able to contact the object through an orifice. In either case, the first case is that suppose if there is an object on the other side of the wall, I won't be able to see the wall. So the wall is the obstruction, therefore my mind is not able to contact the object through my orifices of the eye. Now, assuming that the object is there visible to me, potentially visible to me, the orifice of the eye is able to contact it, but my mind is not available to link between the orifice and the object, and the mind is somewhere else. Even though the object is in front of my eyes, I am not able to see that. So no knowing takes place. So all these things, what does it show? There is a dependency of the three to come together to have a knowledge, and that too, it happens only in the presence of the Atma or the Chaitanya in the body. Now, in the Chaitanya, also there is another beauty of it is that in the Chaitanya Swarupa, in the very nature of the Chaitanya, there is no separation, no vyabhichara. Now, if you remember, we said that, in the Mandukya Upanishad, when we were discussing about the Sushupti or the deep sleep, Sarveshwaraha, Sarvajna Sarveshwaraha. Now, Sarvajna, the word Sarvajna is used there. How does the word Sarvajna is used? We will discuss this Sarvajnatvam in our following paragraph. That also is important because Swarupa is Jnapti. And that Swarupa Jnapti, when there is Anantata is happening, where there is no multiplicity or there is no division, then it is Jnana Swarupa, and that Jnana Swarupa is what is called the Sarvajna. Exactly like how when there were nothing to be perceived in our deep sleep, we were Swarupa of Jnana Swarupa, but we were not knowing anything because there is nothing else, na dvitiyam asti. there is nothing second to it in that deep sleep. Therefore, neither the individuality, nor the body, nor the mind, nor the object, orifice, nor the objects outside world, all of them were absent. And it was in pure knowledge. That is Nepti Swarupa. In this, when the Swarupa, when there is nothing is happening, that is the time it is called Atma or Brahman. Te Atma Vijnanasya Vishayabhuta Utpadyamana Eva Atma Vijnanena Vyapta Utpadyante. Te means this Shabdadi Akaraha, Avabhasa. They are Atma Vijnanasya Vishayabhuta. When it becomes related to the Atma Vijnana, the knowledge of the Atma, Utpadyamana Eva, they become known, the mind becomes known, the eyes becomes known, the object becomes known, all of them becomes known only when the Atma in the form of Vijnana is present in the body. Utpadyamana eva Atma Vijnanena Vyapta Utpadyante. This Vyapti or the pervading nature of Vijnanam, Atma, because there is nothing other than that. The Atma or Brahman is being identified together is everything. In the space, when a pot comes up and the pot needs a space for its own existence and it creates a space inside the pot, the space is never getting divided into many. Same way, in the knowledge of Brahman or Atman, when the mind appears, the mind is like the pot. Now inside the mind, the knowledge is happening of the objects which is coming in contact. So, otherwise if I take the example of water, the flow of water is by nature is nothing but water in motion. There is no river with water not moving. When water is in motion, we call it as a river, and that aspect, the water is not actually speaking separately moving. The water has got a nature of flow. That flow, we call it as now as a river. Same way, that knowledge has the pervasiveness or the nature of pervading everything because it is inside that everything is appearing. So naturally it is pervading everything. Therefore the knowledge is now we call, when it is coming to the mind, we call it as knowing. Tasmat Atma Vijnana Abhavasya Cha Te Vijnana Shabda Vachyascha. Now is where he is closing the sentence. Tasmat, therefore, Atma Vijnana Abhavasya, the absence of Atma as a knowledge, Te Vijnana Shabda Vachyascha. When it is delinked from the Atma, they become mere the verbs which we use at the mind level as a thoughts, vritti. And that cannot independently happen without the Atma Vijnana. Therefore, Datvartha Bhuta Atmana Eva Dharmaha Pratiti. Mean Vitriya Rupa Iti Avivekipihi Parikalpante. Aviveki. Those who are not done the introspection or investigation into the process of knowing, they parikalpyante, they imagine that this vikriya or the pratiti of knowing the nature of knowing in the mind, as if it is the dhatvartha of the activity of the verb. Just like the word dhatvartha, the word dhatu is, the verbal root is jna. That knowing aspect, actually there is no knowing. In the knowledge, when this is being experienced, that experience is now called knowing or experience, because we feel that it is an activity depending upon the subject and the object. But the subject and the object are not separate from that knowledge itself. There is nothing outside knowledge where you can say that even the things which are unknown to us is coming under the category of called the unknowns, which is also in the category of one of the names, which is again in the realm of knowledge only. There is nothing which we can think, conceive outside consciousness, yet we can give it a name or a idea or a notion for it. If it has to be an idea or notion, the very idea brings it into the realm of the mind, and therefore it becomes a part of the Jnana Swarupa. Therefore, the word Dhatvartha Bhuta is when they says that understood by the word meaning has to be now to be taken that it is the word is indicating activity at the mind level, but at the nature level or the swarupa or the by the swabhava of every object, they are nothing but the same knowledge or the consciousness or awareness. The object is also awareness, the eyes are awareness, the mind is awareness, the Atma is awareness. In the awareness, these are all separately conceived by the avivekivi, the one who has not done the proper investigation, and then they say that I am knowing, I am the knower, this is the object of knowledge, this is the subject of knowledge, this is the instrument of knowledge. Like that, all divisions are created by the verbal root from the point of knowing which is taking place in the mind, but in the Atma, it is not happening in the form of a verbal root, or it is the Lakshyartha. The word Jnapti is indicating of the Swarupa or the nature of knowledge in everything or in everywhere. There is not everything, everywhere. There is nowhere which is where you can pinpoint and say there is no consciousness or awareness is here. The moment you make that statement, that it is comes under the realm of consciousness or awareness. Therefore, this statement of yours that Atma Anityatam Paratantram, these are what you are talking about is from the Dhatvartha or the verbal root which is related to the mind level, Vritti, in the Vritti Rupa, Avabhasa, Shabdat Yakar Avabhasa, not the nature which is called Atmanaha Swarupam Jnapti. That is the nature of Atma is the Swarupa of the knowledge. Now, I will stop here today because the next subject has to be taken up is long enough not to be completed in the next 10-12 minutes. So I'll keep it for the Friday's class, and I'll take question answer session, which I could not do it on Sunday also. Thank you, Prasad, for having stepped in for me, and Atmish and Prakash for holding the lesson. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम्। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। Thank you. धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much, Binduji. Thank you very, very much. Really excellent class. And anyone who's new, I encourage everyone to listen back on the replays so that you can bring yourself up to speed. The hand raising in the chat is open, and Venkat's already come up, but if there are others with questions, we have time to take those today. So before we turn it over to Venkat, Prakash, did you want to speak at this time?
No, thank you, Artemisia. I'll let Venkatji ask the question.
Namaste, Venkat.
Hari Om, Vidyaji, Hari Om, Artemisia, Hari Om, Prakash. Now, I'm taking my opportunity to quickly get in and ask questions. I'm not going to lose my opportunity. So, Binduji,
Thank you.
yeah,
Go ahead.
good. So, I'm try to recap on few things that to build upon for the class today. I think last class was really solid in terms of that Ananta Shabdonta Vatva Pratisheda Dwarena Visheshanam. That, don't negate the subject itself. That is really telling us. Otherwise, you will end up in Shunya. Because eliminate, Neti is for Anitya. And if someone is dumb enough, they also get to the Nitya, the subject even available all the time. Eliminating even the subject lead to, that is why that Vishesha, that clear indication given here right there, that gives a foundation, Binuji. Then that Atmani, that Tasmadva Etasmadatmanaha, that is the indicator to, look at your own Sarupa. Puna. That Punarutti is told. That Etamananda Mayamatmana Upasankramati. Then this brings another, that Upasankramati, that Upasankramati means there is a knower aspect emerging in this statement, right? That knower, there is an aspect of knower emerging. Then Tats Sruštva Tadevanu Pravishat. That Srushti and Pravesha is also known as a knowledge. That brings that, Nana Kartutvam. So far, that knower aspect is openly told and equated. That iti cha tasmaiva jivarupena sharire pravisham darshayati ato vaidituhu surupam brahma. So it is setting up an aspect of Brahman, and which is openly told. This is like pretty surprising in a way. The Atma Brahma equation, and openly stating the knowing aspect of this. So so far is understanding correct, Binduji? Then before we get to the today's questions.
See, you are correct to a large extent, but you have to understand that Evam Anandamayam Atmanam Upasankramati is to show that the Upasankramati is becoming one with the Atma and the Anandamaya. Anandamaya, which will come up later, the Panchakosha Viveka, where the beyond the Panchakosha Viveka is the reason why the Anandamaya is Anandamayam Atmanam Upasankramati. So there, what happens in that why the Brahma and Atma, the problem is that suddenly from Brahma to Atma, when the Upanishad shifted, there is no way which we could relate that Brahman which is Satyam, Jnanam and Anantam. I don't feel myself as Anantam, as infinite in my nature. I am what you call a small, limited individual being. How can I myself consider as infinite in nature? To negate that is the second sentence, tat srishtva tadevana pravishat. Word is being used. That means that, tat, srishtva, that having created, tad eva, that itself, anupravishat, entered. Mean that Brahman, having created the multiplicity, has now entered in the every creation itself entered every creation. Therefore, Atma and Brahma, Atma, in me, there is something which is Brahman, which I am not able to know myself, or I identify myself as what is in me, that is Brahman who has entered into me, this body, because I am considering myself as a body. So the question which will naturally come is that, then why am I feeling, if that has entered me or myself as something, then why am I feeling limited? Or how am I getting the limitation? I should also having the feeling of unlimited, or eternity or infinity in my experience. That is not happening. To negate that only, this statement is given, that tateva anupravishat, is to prove that the word Atma and Brahma are not to be seen separately, has to be seen from one point. Now, when we are not experiencing the nature of Satyam, Jnanam and Anandam as my nature, that is the time when we have to now tag the line of Acharya Shankara to understand how does that happen. For that, he himself is giving the question from the opponent as the, what you call, the icebreaker, saying that, how can it be from the Dattvartha point of, how can it be that knowing, and that it is how can you call it as a Swarupa? If my Swarupa is Brahman, then I am the knower is always limited to the subject, object and conditions of the Karakas. So how can it be understood? For that, we have to understand the further Bhashya further. From
Yes,
that point, you have to understand this.
yes, Pinduji. I think this is clear that tat srishtva tadevanu pravishat. This is internally happening. Atma Akasha Sambhuta. I think that cross verification is extremely good, Pinduji, here. That that Atma Akasha Sambhuta is the internal happening. So that srishtva tadevanu pravishat is internally happening. That from your own that seeding of this happening within you. So this is tallying, Binoji. The knowledge is completely tallying. But that nicety for today is Gnanancha Dattvartva. I think that Karakapekshatvat is, that the sutra was extremely solid. The Surupa Vatirikena Karyatvopa Charat. That means when the Swarupa is not known, then the Triputi happens and the Karyatvopacharat is a natural, misunderstanding arises because the Swarupa Gnana is not there. So that Para Apara, right? The Apara lead to that Karyatvopacharat. The Triputi happens. But why it is, why not directly told that, Pragnanam Brahma? This is, complete, in a way it is laid out to, take out that the karakatva, that by having the misapprehension, you are getting karakapekshat. If the self-apprehension, self-knowledge is so evident, then there is there is no triputi. In the Swarupa Gnana, there is no triputi. Is that right conclusion?
See, if we had said the Prajnanam Brahma is the way in which it is to be understood, we don't know what is Brahman. We know it as an object. The objectification of Brahman takes place the moment we hear any word. Every word is an object for us, because words are indicative of objects. Now, Prajnanam Brahma is also known to me as a knowledge in the mind. My knowledge of Brahman, my knowledge of my body, my knowledge of a flower, my knowledge of a tree, etc. Everything is my knowledge. But that is not Prajnanam. That is why the word, the suffix pra is used. Otherwise, Jnanam Brahma would have been enough. Then it would have been more confusing that we will think whatever we know is Brahman. But the word, the suffix, the prefix pra is prakarshena jnanam, prajnanam, Brahma. That special aspect of knowledge which is in the Swarupa as not an activity or a subject, not even a witnessing nature of that. There is nothing in that, because there is no second in it where it can be. That is why the Anandada is there, and there cannot be any bifurcation in that aspect of Jnanam. That knowledge in its purity, in that there is nothing other than that knowledge. Prajnana Ghanam or Jnana Ghanam. This is the way the Brahman has to be, Atman has to be understood. Otherwise, what happens is that whatever we think as knowing, awareness, all knowledge, consciousness, all at the mental level, we will take it as Atma or Brahman. No, that is vrittis only. Vritti means thoughts or impulses in the mind. That has to be not confused to be the nature of Atma or Brahman.
Yes, Binduji, this is clear. That extending that understanding, te atma vignanasya vichaya bhutaha utpadyamana eva atma vignanena vyaptva utpadyante. Then it converting the same knowledge seen in the light of ignorance, the same knowledge in the light of, vidya. So this description, the te atma vignanasya vishaya bhutaha, then that flowing water example, now it is seeing the same in a different light, the same knowledge in a different light. One lens is Agnana, then the other lens is Swarupa Gnana. The same lens is shifts here. Is that the fair understanding here?
Where is Ajnana here?
There is no Agnana here.
Then?
That's it, Madhuji.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, Madhuji.
Thank you, Venkat. Payal, you wanted to ask some question in the beginning of the class. You raised your hands. Please come up.
And just to say, we have some more time left, so anyone who has anything that they would like to discuss with Bindu on the class today or this Upanishad, please come up. And then remember, we have a more general invited Q&A on Sundays. So, and then also, depending on who does or doesn't come up, Venkat, you're welcome to proceed, and so would be Prakash. So anyone at all who would like to, go ahead and raise your hand.
Madhuji, that Swarupa Vyatirikena Karyottopacharat. This sutra, is that a part of the Brahma Sutra? Because this is very, very powerful statement.
Yeah, it is not part of Brahma Sutra. It's not part of Brahma Sutra. It is called Sutra Bhashya. Bhashya in the form of a sutra.
It's like a knife cutting it in one go.
Yeah. Tara?
Hari Om Binduji.
Hari Om, Tara.
I just came up to just express my gratitude, Binduji. It's nothing about this. It's nothing short of a miracle, Binduji, that you're able to read in Sanskrit so eloquently and then translate those learnings in English. I mean, it is really a blessing to be here. Otherwise, there was no way I could have been in any form. I would have been exposed to this beautiful knowledge that you're sharing. This just your mere presence as well. So it's just warms up my heart, Binduji. So really want to say thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing for all of us and, for yourself even, I'm sure. But, I just wish and pray that, it all works out for all of us, in ways that only God knows. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for your lovely words.
Yeah, thank you for your gratitude. I think there are others of us that feel similarly. It's extremely rare opportunity. So thank you, Thera. Welcome, Ganesh. You're muted. Oh.
Good evening, Binduji.
Good evening, Ganesh.
I just have only one question. After you said the final Shanti Mantra again, I went out, so I could not hear the conversation between you and Venkat. And I listened to the whole class. I have only one doubt. One clarification I need. Does it mean to say that all transactions are going on only through the mind, and the Atman or Brahman, which is equated with that, all this knowledge is there, already existing? Is that Sarvajñatva? Does it mean that whatever we know through the mind has already been there, or is it the power of the Chaitanya that makes the mind function and we know through the mind?
It is already there because nothing outside consciousness, no? Or knowledge or Brahman, Atman, whatever the terms, the names are not important. What is this thing is that in the space, nothing is outside the space. Suppose if I am saying that when object knowledge is happening, object is conditioned by space and time. And the time also, we have limitations in the space. What I can know in certain spatial area may not be known if it is beyond that area, either by vision or sound or things like that, or there is an obstruction to it. Now, what is in the past, unless it has been there in my memory or experience, so many things has happened in the past, but none of them are known to me. They are all unknown to me. Future definitely is unknown. There is no question about it. So from the time point of view only, even in the present thing, what is happening within the reach of my sense organs only, things are getting known to me. Nothing outside that. So time, space, everything wise, if you look at the knowledge that is happening in the mind is limited to this time, space and object. Desha Kala Vastu Parichinna. But the Desha Kala is in Brahman. Therefore, all vastu or all the knowledge or the objects are also in Brahman only. So from that point of view, what is Brahman? He is the, what do you call, the receptacle or repository of all. Therefore, Sarvatyatvam is only from that point of view.
So, will it amount to the fact that whatever the mind is comprehending or understanding or whatever, the function of the mind is all just a myth or fictitious or what they call mithya?
Avabhasa. We don't call it as mithya. We call it as an avabhasa, as a reflection.
Okay. The reflection of the Brahman.
No, appearance. Reflection means appearance.
Okay. So it appears to be happening, but it is not so.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Bindu.
In the Friday's class, I'll be explaining it more because that is where the Sarvatnyatva is being explained in the Bhashya.
Yeah. That would be fantastic. It will be more clear, I feel.
Yes.
Thank you, Binduji. Namaste.
Thank you, Ganesh. Namaste, Payal.
राधे राधे सर, नमस्ते।
राधे राधे।
मेरा एक सवाल है, थोड़ा हटके है इससे। जैसे हमारे अंदर आत्मा है, अगले के अंदर भी आत्मा है जिससे हम बात करते हैं, तो कई बार हम उसके मन का नहीं करते हैं तो वो कह देता है हम तुमको श्राप दे रहे हैं, तुम्हारा ऐसा हो जाएगा वैसा हो जाएगा। तो क्या ऐसा हमारी आत्मा को वो श्राप लगता है तो हमारा शरीर उसको मतलब एक्सेप्ट करता है कि आत्मा उसको एक्सेप्ट कर लेती है कि इसका ऐसा हो जाए, ऐसा होता है क्या?
इंग्लिश में जवाब देगा तो आपको अनुमति है, आप अनुमति देंगे या?
यस
हिंदी में ही बताना है?
हाँ।
ओके. So this curse and by one person to another person, even both of them are Atma, is a story of the waking mind, of the waker, because he is identifying only with the waking world, so he is making a separation between one person to another person. If he has really understood his Atma, then there is no separation. Yatra na anyat pasyati, anyat shrunoti, anyat vijanati, where you don't see separation at all. There's satyam, jnanam and anantam. Anantam means there is no bifurcation possible in it. So what happens is that this very concept that Atma is getting affected by anything is totally out of question, because na karta na bhokta. It is neither a doer nor an enjoyer of anything. Then who is doing the cursing of one and another? It is in the level of ignorance. When we think that we are the body, then one body is giving the curse to another body that let you be, suffering from that or that, whatever may be the curse what you give it. So from that point of view, it is from the ignorance point of view, this curse and everything. But your true nature, when you understand that it is Atma is neither na lipyate bahya dukhyaihi. That is how the Shastra says. It is not touched by anything outside which can hurt it. So there is no hurt, no happiness, nothing. It is a state of niratishaya ananda. There is nothing which you can even call it as an ananda, because the ananda which we know is always should be better or greater than the previous one. But when it is in ananda everywhere, where will you make the differentiation between one? So that question of having a greater ananda or lesser ananda is not at all possible. this Ananda Atmanam Upasangramati. So that when I take that part of the Upanishads, you will understand it better. But basically thing is that there is no cursing or anything from the Atma level. But if you identify you are the body, then these are all part of the stories of the ignorant or the Atnyani. समझ में आ गया?
थोड़ा आया, पर बीच में थोड़ा सा वर्ड्स इंग्लिश का मुझे नहीं समझ आया कि मतलब आप मुझे शॉर्टकट में बता दीजिए कि
अभी
मतलब
आपको
परेशान होने की जरूरत नहीं।
संक्षिप्त में बता देता हूँ। यदि आप आत्मा समझे आपको, तो आपका ज्ञान इतना है कि एक आत्मा दूसरा आत्मा से अलग नहीं है, सर्वम आत्मा है।
ओके।
तो सर्वम आत्मा है तो एक दूसरे को कोष देने का कहाँ सवाल होता है? नहीं हो सकता है।
हाँ।
जब भिन्नता होता है कि मेरा शरीर अलग है, तुम्हारा शरीर अलग है, तो मैं आपको कुछ शाप दे सकता हूं या कुछ दुविधा दे सकता हूं, लेकिन जो आत्मा है, जो कर्ता भी नहीं है, भोक्ता भी नहीं है, सर्वव्यापी है, उसमें कहां से कुछ कर सकता है? तो शास्त्र बोलता है न लिप्यते बाह्य दुख ही, बाहर का कोई भी दुख उसको छू नहीं सकता है, वो आत्मा है। तो जब बाहर का दुख ही नहीं, बाहर ही नहीं है कुछ, तो बाहर का दुख छूने का सवाल ही नहीं होता है। समझ गए ना?
थैंक यू सर।
Thank you. We're really fortunate that Bindaji knows several languages. So thank you for your question. It's no problem. Those of us in English are the lucky ones. Okay. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring forward before I would ask Prakash if he has any questions? Anyone on the panel already who would like to ask another question? Otherwise, we'll go over to Prakash. Venkat or anyone?
I'm good, Artemisha. Today is full. So.
Okay, sometimes I know you hold back, which is very kind out of consideration of time. Yes, then before I actually close to hand over to Bindaji, Prakash, take any time you'd like. If you have any topic that you'd like to bring forward to Bindaji, do you?
Just as the extension of because just like Venkatji said, this class has its fullness already, it's overflowing. But the question I have, general question, is the nature of manana, and so how does one contextualize manana to nididhyasana? This I just want to hear Bindoji's interpretation and how this manana nididhyasana transition. Is there a registration of that? Is there a sense of affirmation? Is there a clarity one arrives at, Bindoji?
See, Prakash, I have explained the process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana in one of the previous classes, which is self-evident. Manana is the application of Shravana, what you have heard, because here is a subject which is regarding your own nature, which is not an external laboratory where you can do experiment. You have to do the experiment within yourself through your mind, because knowing yourself is only possible. The only instrument which we have is mind. So that is why the word manana means activity of the mind, is what is being integrated by the mind. But what is the activity? The activity is to know who am I, the nature of myself. That nature of my own true nature is achieved by hearing the Upanishadic words and then applying it on you. Either it is Neti Neti or Mandukya, Jagra Swapna Sushupti Viveka, Drisya Viveka. There are any number of methods which are there, or even the Panchakosha Viveka, which will come up later in this Upanishad. all of them are only Shastra Vakyas for us to apply to arrive at the one point, what is our true nature. Whether you negate your three states of Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti, or whether you say Neti Neti by saying Drik Drishya Viveka, that is what is seen is an object and I am not the object, I am the seer. This, what is seen is negated, Drishyam is object, that is negated. So Drik remains. That Drik also is no more a Drik when there is no Drishyam. That means there is no seer when there is nothing to be seen. That is the last negation which will take place, and that is the time when Bhada Avati means the end of all negations, where you will be face to face with your own nature without any qualification, because there is neither the subject nor the object in that state. So that is the state when it happens. You don't have anybody else because you are the only one there. So it will dawn on you not like anything happening in the mind, but something where the mind also will not be able to name it or experience it or recollect it as an experience. It will become your nature. When it becomes your nature, the mind is not controlling your nature. Mind is an object for the nature. So what happens is that, like the dentist having given you the medicine for the toothache, having taken the medicine, whether the toothache has stopped or not, you will be able to know. Neither the medicine vendor, the pharmacist, nor the doctor who prescribed it. You are the one who is taking it. So you will know it when the pain has stopped. Here you are the one who is doing the manana, and when the nididhyasana, that firm affirmation that what this is my nature, is a experiential thing, but not verbalizable in the sense that no words can bring out that experience. Because experience by words is within the realm of object. Here is an experience of the subject. The subject experiencing subject can never be verbalized. It is a being. That is what is called Nididhyasana.
Yes, thank you, Binduji. Thank you. I just go back to that aspect because see, when the Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman inquiry ends up in the liberation of the very language through which it is being constructed, the affirmation is the realization, right? Yeah. Thank you.
In this
Thank you. Oh,
Upanishad
sorry. Go
itself,
ahead, Brenda.
in this Upanishad itself, it is coming. Yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasa saha, where the words fail and the mind is unable to fathom or unable to conceptualize or bring it into the realm of notion. That is the place where it is taking us in this Upanishad. So the process is through Satyajnanam Anantam Brahma. Once you know the nature of Brahman, try that as your own nature, and when you have that experience of your own yourself, that is the time when Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati or Brahmavid Apnoti Param. That Shruti statements, the Upanishad statement becomes a reality to you.
Thank you, Bindoji, for the last sentence that you spoke. It was fantastic. Subject experiencing the subject cannot be verbalized. That actually caught up with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ganesh.
Thank you, everybody. Just refreshing my phone to be sure I'm Yeah. So just to say, we turned off hand raising. We'll just close in a few minutes as we said we would. What you just asked, though, Prakash, I did want to just say, Bindo, that the last part of what you were saying was exactly what I was thinking, and I just wanted to share a moment how I experience or know this, and if you want to comment on that, but I think we're on the same wavelength. Sorry, I got a red bar for a moment. As we go deeper and deeper into whatever we consider to be our path, the words become harder and harder to come by. And the way I've seen the gray line with Manana Nididhyasana is it's like we're starting to really realize that we have enough to go deeper than gaining more, or even more than a mental reflection, even though we still may be gaining more in our dialogues with our teachers and all of that. But that the Nididhyasana part to me is just like when you say, Binduji, that, every path is unique and it's a lone journey. Like the Nididhyasana is just a discovery itself, that is so hard to talk about that's why it can't be more clarified. And the mind finds its way to, a degree where there is just no experience of doing that part of the path. It's absolutely clear that it's doing itself, whereas before there felt like there was a doingness, and that it may be so not transactional that although it may seem that there's a clarity in the moment in what one might call that process, that then afterwards the memory even may be lost. There's a change in one, but how it happened, very much like deep sleep. It's very hard to hold on to it, but it doesn't mean the change isn't happening. And then it's very clear that those later stages are so unique and ineffable that the main thing is that one has to actually take that responsibility to go there. Wonder what you would say, Bindo.
Yeah, you are right. See, this journey of knowing your own nature cannot be done by anybody else other than the individual who is listening to these Upanishads and their explanations. As you rightly said, it's a journey which you have to take yourself alone. And when you reach, or when you are already that, but when you discover that is something which others will never be able to make out, nor will others know what is happening to you. It's you are the experiencer, you are the one who knows it, you are the one who is finding the truth. So it is an individual journey. The success is in your hands, and the destination is already you, but you need to discover it. That's all.
Very beautiful, very beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone who's been here. Please consider in the future that when we share what's in our own process and questions and so forth, it really does benefit everybody. So no matter where you're at, some of you will remember me 3 years ago, and the kind of, I had to be unguarded in order to ask these questions in these rooms. So there's a reason for it. It has a potential, that we find what we're looking for. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Prakash, especially as you're watching the chat and playing a lot of the behind the scenes role right now. That's extremely helpful to me for various reasons that you're aware of, with limitations that I have. And most of all, thank you, Binduji, for what you're doing for all of us. This is extremely beautiful. Please do listen to the replays as much as you can. I usually, maybe I'm on the extreme, but by the first day I've listened to them at least 2 more times, and it's amazing how much we don't hear the first time. So those are available here and on the YouTube channel, where there are many other classes as well. and we will continue on Friday here at 8:30 p.m. IST. Hopefully I've covered enough. If you want to, and I recommend studying ahead, there's the mantras in the Dropbox ahead, and there's a book at the top of the chat where if you go to page 301, you'll start into the second part of this Upanishad. And although, in my view, Binduji, the way you're teaching this is much more just very, very deep, still you can read a translation of some of Shankara's commentaries, and that can be helpful. Okay, thank you very much. And Bindu, would you please close us out?
Thank you all. Thank you, Atmisha, Prakash, Venkat, Tara, Ganesh, and Payal for your questions. And thank you all of you for attending the room. May all be benefited by the class which you have listened. Please listen to the replay. You may get some more insights when you listen it the second time. See you on Friday with a continuation from where we stopped today. Hari Om. Namaste.
Good night.